I hated the ladies because my mom treated me badly. She used to hit me, she cursed me, and she gave me away to a grown man. Wrestling is a big part of Mexican culture, a sport that combines combat disciplines and performing arts. With intense hand-to-hand fights and with great events and strong rivalries. There are many Mexican wrestlers who marked the history of this sport. El Santo, Blue Demon, Mil Máscaras. But if there is one name that stands out in this long list is Juana Barraza, known in the ring as the Lady of Silence, and better known outside the ring as La Mataviejitas, a woman who not only destroyed her opponents in the ring, but she also did it in her day-to-day life. Epazoyucan, Mexico. Juana Barraza Samperio was born on December 27, 1957, in a dysfunctional family. Her mother had serious drinking problems and her behavior with Juana was miserable. She even offered the little girl's body to a man in exchange for 3 beers. And as if the trauma were not enough, sometime later, Juana had to live through the loss of her older brother, Jose Enrique, at the hands of a street gang. It would be these dramatic experiences that would lead Juana to become, years later, a deadly serial killer. In her working career, Juana acquired nursing skills. And she also worked in commerce as a popcorn vendor. But if Juana stood out for one occupation, it was for wrestling professionally. And she did it under the pseudonym of the Lady of Silence. But by that time, her more macabre side had already awakened. And once out of the ring, Juana dressed up as a nurse or a social worker. She would gain the trust of women who lived alone, and she brutally ended their lives. To carry out this deception successfully, Juana always carried a stethoscope and a fake ID card. She encouraged her future victims to sign up for charity programs for the elderly. And as a result, they all gladly opened the door of their homes to her. But once inside, Juana's kindness metamorphosed into evil personified. Her modus operandi was almost always the same. She would hit the old women hard. She stabbed them ferociously. She seized their bodies, plundered them, and to finish them off, strangled them with her stethoscope, and fled without leaving a trace. During the course of the investigation, the authorities were severely criticized by the media. The agents believed that the murderer in question was a man who dressed as a woman to gain access to the ladies' homes. Even the federal prosecutor went so far as to say that they were dealing with a very shrewd and careful man with a brilliant mind. But nothing could be farther from the truth. In fact, only in a very few cases, witnesses reported seeing a very corpulent woman dressed in a red blouse. They said she had a very masculine appearance, blonde, bushy hair, and very tough features. Thanks to these data, the investigators made a sketch of the suspect and made a clay bust of her face. However, there was a lot of contradictory evidence at the police's disposal. At one point in the investigation, officers surmised that 2 killers might be involved. They also paid special attention to a strange coincidence. At least 3 of Juana's victims owned a copy of Paul Cézanne's painting, The Boy in the Red Vest. They also noted that some of the annihilated ladies were of Spanish origin. Although the first homicide attributed to Juana dates back to the end of the 1990s, her first official homicide was on November 25, 2002. It was that of Maria de la Luz González Anaya, 64 years old. 4 months later, she took the life of Guillermina León, 84 years old. And until December 2005, Juana continued committing more and more homicides. She has now reached a figure of between 42 and 48 victims, according to the police data collected. But if there is one homicide that stands out above the rest, is that of Ana María de los Reyes Alfaro, the last lady to fall under the piercing force of Juana. On January 25, 2006, Ana María, 89 years old, was sitting quietly at home. Suddenly, she noticed the doorbell ringing. She went to the door and opened it. On the other side was a smiling woman. She had a stethoscope around her neck and a social worker's ID in her hand. It was Juana. And so, at the kindest of the stranger, Ana María let her in. But as soon as she entered, Juana hit her hard on the head. She stabbed her cruelly and strangled her with a stethoscope. She then took all the valuables from the house, then left the house and ran away from the place. But just at that moment, Ana Maria's tenant caught her in the act. She immediately called the police and described the person responsible for the murder. It was a woman with the same physical characteristics as the bust of the alleged murderer. She was wearing a red blouse, and she carried a stethoscope around her neck. Thus, a large police deployment appeared at the scene, and Juana was finally apprehended. Much to the surprise of the Mexicans, whoever was behind almost 100 homicides was not a man. It was in fact a woman, Juana Barraza, a 48-year-old wrestling athlete. La Mataviejitas, as she had come to be known by the Mexican media, had fooled them all. In previous cases, the agents had been unable to arrest her as they had no fingerprints to reveal her identity. But now they had finally found her. When Juana was captured, she confessed to having killed Ana María and 3 other women. However, she denied being involved in 10 other murders, despite the fact that her now identified fingerprints had been found on them. She also claimed that she had not visited Ana Maria's house with malicious intent, but had gone in search of work as a laundress. In her own words, "You will know why I did it when you read my ministerial statement." But as soon as the agents pressed her, she confessed the truth. "I hated the ladies because my mother treated me badly. She used to hit me. She cursed me. She gave me away to a grown man," she said. Which brings us once again to the classic example of a dangerous murderer with the past as a victim. Juana was tried in the spring of 2008 and charged by the prosecution with 40 homicides. However, investigators estimate the total number of her victims to be between 42 and 48 women. After a thorough review of the cases, Juana was convicted of 16 counts of murder and 12 counts of aggravated robbery. And on March 31st of that same year, Juana was finally sentenced to 759 years in prison. Juana was completely outraged. It seemed to her to be an excessively unjust punishment. She uttered the following words: "I'm honest, honorable. I respect my superiors. I respect the elderly. It is unfair. I'm not going to sign anything. I'm going to appeal because I don't agree. God knows that I'm not the murderer, because they continue to annihilate old ladies. After years of keeping the authorities in check, Juana entered the Santa Marta Cathedral prison, with the highest sentence ever given to a murderer in the history of Mexico. Her enormous trail of blood had really impressed the authorities. This type of act was something we Mexicans watched in US movies, in the United States, but for us it was an unknown phenomenon, said Renato Sales Heredia, the then Mexico City prosecutor. Since then, Juana has not stopped defending her innocence, to the point of becoming an icon of Mexican popular culture. The series Mujer Casos de la Vida Real in Central de Abasto recreated homicides committed by Juana. The series Criminal Minds in Cappadocia also depicted her story. Likewise, artists such as Amandititita have dedicated songs to her. And writers such as Victor Ronquillo and Susana Vargas have published books about her biography. In fact, Susana herself met Juana in the Santa Marta Cathedral prison, and she found it surprising not to observe in her the cold look she had read so much about. She even smiled with her eyes, she recounts in the book. In addition, Juana told her something that Susana did not expect. She told me that her main activity in prison consisted of strolling old ladies. At that moment, Juana stopped smiling and told her, "You know what they tell me? Who do you think you are? You don't boss me around," she writes. Finally, despite the fact that the whole country considers her a monster, Juana is only tormented by the fact that Mexicans have the following opinion about her relationship with her 3 children. "I can be whatever they say I am, but foremost, I am a good mother." Juana, with so much time in prison, began to live a normal life in prison. And in 2015, she found love with another inmate, and they married soon after. But after a year of merely an epistolary romance, they finally broke up. Seeing each other, the love fizzled out, Juana explained. After her sentimental fiasco, Juana prefers to spend her days in the prison kitchen, away from romantic aspirations. And most importantly, she continues to insist on her innocence. "I am here by mistake." In Mexico, there was a burly woman, 5.7 feet tall, who had dedicated her whole life to wrestling, to commerce, and most sinisterly to ending the lives of innocent ladies. And all because of the mistreatment she had received as a child from her mother. She was Juana Barraza, the lady of silence in the ring, la mataviejitas in her daily life.